But it was also like very disappointing to see because you can tell that like Gabby was excited to be making that effort, excited to like kind of surprise them a bit and see them more in their natural habitat when they're not like dressed up for a cocktail party or doing some sort of crazy shenanigans on a group date, and just get to know them in a different environment. And everyone kind of really blew her off. It was super hurtful to see. That really got to her, and I felt like it obviously made her lose a little bit of confidence in herself, and she was really in her feelings by the time that she got back to her own mansion. One line that really stuck out to me that she kind of said in her confessional was, what if I don't deserve to be loved by the people that I want to be loved by? And this really stopped me in my tracks. Not only because that's like a super relatable like feeling, like we've all been there before when like you're really crushing on someone and you're just like, what if I'm not it for that person? Like I really want this person so bad, but like what if they just don't see it with me? Like how will that make me feel? But also for Gabby in particular, I felt like this was definitely a bit of foreshadowing on what's to come with her date with Eric, because I felt like she was probably triggered unconsciously by her relationship with her mom, right? Because we all deserve to be loved by our mothers, by our parents, and her mom made her feel that she was not worthy of that. And so I feel like she's experiencing a similar type of feeling, like her body is reacting and her nervous system is reacting in the same way. Like, oh, this is someone that I want to love me. This is someone that I'm trying to connect with, and they're just rejecting me, and I don't know why. And I think that was probably very triggering for her. And my biggest fear for her, I mean, she seems to be someone that's like confident and secure, and like although her relationship with her mother is obviously something that still like brings up a lot of pain for her, it seems as though she's also accepted it and knows that like she does deserve love and that there are other people out there that will love her, but it's still like a core wound. So I'm really hoping that throughout the rest of the season, she's not operating from that wound and like seeking out people that either mirror that relationship with her mother, like unconsciously, and like she's not seeking out a relationship in which she feels as though she always has to like fight for love and like strive to get that from someone else. Like I just hope she doesn't choose a relationship where she's always like chasing that other person and never feeling like completely fulfilled by them. So then at dinner we're having a chat with Eric, and he's opening up about his parents, talking about how they have a love story that's really inspiring to him. He really admires both of their personalities. And again, this triggers Gabby's core wound because she's already like predisposed to it from feeling so raw and so triggered the day before. And she like opens up about her mom, but I think not that she does it too soon, but like I don't think she wasn't ready to like have that conversation. Like I feel like she talked about it and she was like, oh wait, this is a lot of emotions for me to have at this point in time. Like I'm not ready to sit down and just like divulge all this information in like a way that we can have a productive discussion about it. It was like, okay, this is more of a moment for me to just like continue processing my feelings. So that happens. She kind of has to get up and excuse her. Because we've all been there. It's super scary to open up to a new person, especially being vulnerable about the parts of yourself that like are super raw and super hard for you to deal with, because you just don't know how the other person is going to take them. You don't know if they are going to accept it or if they're going to decide that they don't have the capacity to deal with it, they're not interested in dealing with it. Like you just never know how that's going to go. And of course, like everyone is entitled to making that decision for themselves, and like they don't have to take on a relationship that they don't feel comfortable with or they don't feel like they have the capacity to support. But that doesn't make it hurt any less. Like that doesn't make it any easier. And it also doesn't make it it's hard to not take that personally, right? Even if it's because the other person is just like maybe not emotionally available or emotionally like open, that still doesn't mean that it doesn't come across to you as like something super personal. So that was just like super tough to watch because like I said, we've all been there. However, I am glad that while Gabby is voicing these fears and they're super valid, that she's not backing down in her commitment to like being herself, because I think she realizes that as scary as it is, she needs to be herself in order to find the most authentic version of love for her. Because if she's not, she could still fall in love and she still could find someone like that is interested in her, but at the end of the day, if she wasn't being herself during the time of getting to know them, they would be loving a version of her that simply doesn't exist. And eventually the facade is going to fall away and that person is going to feel betrayed. They're going to feel like they're getting something they didn't sign up for. So it's better to just be yourself from the very beginning so that people can choose whether or not they want to be in a relationship with you at the end of the day. So I'm very glad to see that, like, despite her fears, it's and then the last thing that she kind of talks about that like super stuck out to me was how she's not like the most polished bachelorette or the most polished lead. She's not super put together. And this is really interesting for me to hear. Like, this really made me pause and reflect because I mean, she's right in terms of at least family dynamics, at least for a female lead. I can't think of anyone in recent history, another female lead that has had kind of anything other than the typical American like dream, wholesome, two parents, one or two siblings type of family. We did in recent history have Matt James, who had the absentee father kind of role going on, but the main difference with that seemed to be, and Matt seemed to understand it as well, that the reason why his father wasn't in the picture was because the relationship with the mom didn't work out. It didn't seem as though the father was intentionally discarding like Matt, specifically like him and his brother. It seemed like one of those things where like, okay, the relationship didn't work out, we're gonna live with mom, dad is kind of gonna go back and do whatever he was up to. With Gabby's mom, one thing that really like stuck out to me, the way she was describing it to Eric, is that she says on one hand she feels like her mom did her best, but then on the other hand, as soon as she moved out, she kind of wiped her hands clean of her. So it definitely seems like there was some sort of neglect. And I know that she explained the story on Clayton's season and she told us like what was going on, but more in depth, but like the details to me right now like a little fuzzy. If you can remember, let me know in the comments so that we can kind of all be on the same page like moving forward, watching Gabby as she's like in this process. But either way, going back to the thesis, we haven't seen this type of like non-wholesome family structure from a female lead, at least in recent history that I can remember. And I think that's super powerful. I think it's really important to share these types of stories on this show because this show, I think, at least initially in its inception, was about casting like the most perfect lead, like casting someone who like America wanted to date, America's sweetheart, the perfect man, the perfect woman. But it's so much more interesting to watch someone who is relatable, who goes through similar things that a lot of people in America go through, because most people frankly don't have that like perfect family dynamic. Most people do have some sort of like tension with a parent or a family member, or like something kind of has happened in their past that is like super triggering for them. And that's a lot more real and enjoyable to watch. I think it's so important to show that like everyone is worthy of love, and everyone, like, no matter what you have gone through in your past, what you might still be working through, you are still worthy of love. So I love that Gabby is getting to share her story in this way, and we still get to watch her like on her journey to find love, even while she's still like, as a 30-year-old woman, working through all of these complicated emotions with her mom and her family. If you want more where that came from, be sure to check out my full recap, which will pop up on the screen.